The second trailer for Superman and Lois recently came out, and it looks pretty damn good. The cinematography looks very high quality, like a lot higher quality than the Arrowverse typically has, and a lot more cinematic. That is definitely true. The writing is also pretty good, at least from the pilot script that was leaked a while back. I read it, and I don't typically like reading, but I did really enjoy reading the script, so the writing is definitely good, at least for the first episode. The season is also just 13 episodes long, so it won't have much of the filler or repetitive villains and storylines that the Arrowverse seasons typically have, as well as the poor pacing. It's going to be more similar to Arrow Season 8, which only had 10 episodes, or Stargirl Season 1, which only has 13 episodes, much like this season, which neither of those shows have, and neither of those seasons have any filler. The pacing is a lot tighter, and I think that it ends up being a higher level of quality because of it. All of these things are things that the Arrowverse is very heavily criticized for. Most of the seasons, except for the ones that I just mentioned, are just too long. Even the good seasons, like Arrow's season 1, 2, and 5, as well as the Flash seasons 1 and 2, they're all good seasons, but they're also too long, and the pacing is not great for any of those seasons. And there's the bad writing, which most of the Arrowverse shows have, the almost non-existent cinematography. It seems to be all addressed, at least in this trailer, this 60-second trailer, which convinced a lot of people to at least give this show a chance, because it looks a lot better, at least visually, than the Arrowverse typically does, and also tonally, it looks like it's going to be a little bit more mature and cinematic and things like that. And all of those changes and the differences from the Arrowverse make Superman and Lois feel separate from the Arrowverse, and I think that in the end it probably will be. The Arrowverse is coming to an end. It technically is still around, and it will continue through Superman and Lois and all these new shows that are coming out, but the actual franchise of the Arrowverse, I think, has already ended, and it ended with Crisis on Infinite Earths. Arrow also, it ended last year, and that was obviously the namesake of the Arrowverse, but it was Arrow and the crossovers that really defined the Arrowverse. Well, more Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and the crossovers, but most of those shows are not really around anymore or are about to end. Arrow has already ended. Supergirl is about to end after its 6th season. There's also Black Lightning, which will end after its 4th season, which are both coming out this year. And then for Batwoman, Ruby Rose left that show, so they replaced her with a new character, which didn't help the already low ratings, which are obviously now a lot lower. Legends of Tomorrow's ratings are basically the same as Supergirl's. In fact, they're lower than Supergirl, so I don't think that show will last much longer either. And I think that this next season will also be its last. The Flash might last a little bit longer and probably will get a season 8, but I don't think a season 9 is likely, leaving just Superman and Lois next year basically, which I feel like is already so tonally separate from the Arrowverse that it should basically start its own thing. This show has already started to distance itself from the Arrowverse in terms of like its connections to it. The crossover between Superman and Batwoman was canceled, probably for the better, because I don't really see these two shows as compatible. The writing differences, the tone differences, the cinematography differences, I mean everything, it doesn't feel like these shows would work in a crossover. They just are not compatible at all. This wasn't really canceled because they're trying to distance themselves, more because of COVID, but I do think that they might have been reluctant to do this crossover anyway. On the flip side of that, David Ramsey is appearing in an episode of this season as John Diggle, as he is in most of this year's seasons of the Arrowverse. That is an exception, as he's the only Arrowverse character that isn't a part of the main cast that is appearing in this season, and that will clearly lead into something else, maybe something new, maybe a new TV show following him that will be a part of this new franchise that starts with Superman and Lois. Now, the actual most significant distancing is not actually from the rest of the Arrowverse, it's just from the Supergirl TV show, as this show seems to be disregarding all of the characters that were on that show, erasing the entire history of that show, with probably Crisis as the canonical excuse, and we see that in 2 of the main cast members in this season. Sam Lane, who actually appeared in this trailer, and Morgan Edge each had recurring roles in Supergirl seasons 1 and 3 respectively. They are both returning as main characters for this show, played by different actors. Their Supergirl continuities are also probably being ignored, as Morgan Edge at the end of season 3 was arrested, probably put in jail for a while. In Superman and Lois, he's going to be completely separate. He's going to be out of jail, probably never been in jail in the first place, and he's going to be the owner of the Daily Planet. There were no hints of that whatsoever in Supergirl season Season 3. Sam Lane also looks completely different, a lot younger, as does Morgan Edge. The actors who are playing them look a lot younger than the ones that played them on Supergirl. So their actors, the actors who played them, are being completely disregarded, and the continuities are probably not going to be delved into too much from Supergirl. They're probably going to just do whatever they want. Because, for one, they can, and for the second reason is that they want to, because they are mostly distancing themselves from Supergirl. I do hope that there is an exception to this through John Cryer's Lex Luthor, because he's an excellent Lex Luthor, and I would love to see him in this season, in this show, as a main villain and then as a recurring villain. But aside from that, the show is clearly distancing itself from Supergirl, and the reason for this is that, well, Supergirl is it's a bad show. I mean, I found it as a guilty pleasure. I was invested in it because it was a large part of the Arrowverse, and they were using a lot of very interesting DC characters like Martian Manhunter, the Legion of Superheroes, Lex Luthor, Supergirl herself, and obviously Superman, almost all of whom were not able to reach their full potential, except for Lex Luthor and I would say maybe Brainiac 5, because of the show's pretty bad writing, disgusting CGI, I mean, just awful CGI, and non-existent cinematography. This show is low quality, and it's definitely not what I would say Superman and Lois is going to be. Superman and Lois is going to be a higher level of quality, and because of this, they're trying to distance themselves from Supergirl, and completely erase all the continuities from Supergirl or disregard them completely. And honestly, maybe they should take this approach with every Arrowverse show and to completely distance themselves from the Arrowverse. I don't really want to see any crossovers between Superman and Legends of Tomorrow or Black Lightning or Batwoman or even Supergirl, because just tonally and writing-wise, none of that would work. The only one that I would say might work is with The Flash, but even then, The Flash is a lot cheesier and not as cinematic as Superman and Lois, so I don't really know how that crossover would work. So I think Superman and Lois should mostly distance itself from the Arrowverse, and I would absolutely love to see a new DC television franchise now that the Arrowverse is dead, or at least dying, maybe if it's not dead yet. Superman and Lois can rejuvenate the DC television universe and start anew, much like Man of Steel started the DCEU, however, hopefully a little bit more successful at being a universe than the DCEU, but Superman and Lois would be a perfect start to this new DC franchise. That would include also Wonder Girl, which is going to come out on the CW probably next year. Wonder Girl is a CW show in development which will focus on Yara Flor, who is a very, very new character. She's the Wonder Woman of the Future State comics, and she debuted literally last week in the DC Comics, and I'm not even kidding, she debuted in mid-January 2021. Her TV show was actually announced before she debuted, which has to be some sort of a record for a character from the comics getting a TV show, but that TV show is very likely, in my opinion, because of the popularity of the Wonder Woman brand, and because of the creative freedom they would have with this character, because like I said, she debuted literally last week, and she's only appeared in, I think it's 3 issues of any comic ever. Basically, what we know about the character is her name, Yara Flor, the fact that she's the daughter of a Brazilian river god and an Amazonian, and that she's a member of the Justice League in the future, along with Jonathan Kent, aka Superman, who is obviously appearing on Superman and Lois. That connection is pretty interesting. I would love to see those two characters team up at some point, whether that be with Jonathan or Jordan. It doesn't really matter. I mean, one of them or both of them are going to become Superboy, so I would like to see that team up at some point. There might be some sort of DC Future State universe starting here or something, which honestly I am a fan of that, but even if it isn't, I do think that Wonder Girl could have a place in this new DC television universe, and I do think that Wonder Girl will probably also only have a limited amount of episodes, like 10 or 13 or something, will have the same cinematic quality and the same good writing, because I think the CW wanted to do a shift, maybe because the Arrowverse and the DC CW shows, basically all respect for them have been lost and the ratings have gone tremendously down, so they want to change things around. It might not be as easy as it was for the Arrowverse back in the day, so they're going to be making higher quality television shows, maybe with the backing of HBO Max like Superman and Lois is, and that's what the foundation of this new universe will be, starting with Superman and Lois, followed by Wonder Girl, and then maybe a Green Lantern show starring David Ramsey. I would also like to see a Batman show. I mean, that would be just awesome. It's been way too long since we got a Superman show, and Batman show has been even longer. I mean, if you count Smallville a Superman show, then it's been 10 years. If you don't count that, then it's been like 20 years. There actually hasn't been a live-action Batman show since the 1960s. So I would really like to see that in this new universe, a Batman show starring Warren Christie, that while it does take the actor from Batwoman, it has no connection to Batwoman whatsoever. Much like Superman and Lois, won't have much of a connection to Supergirl. Regardless of what other shows we get in this franchise, they should all be of higher level of quality of storytelling and filmmaking that might get some respect back to the DC television name. For the longest time, it was, I mean, ever since the Marvel Cinematic Universe started, everyone was saying, yeah, Marvel is better at movies, but DC is better at, like, video games and television and things like that. That's not true anymore. I mean, Marvel has been better at DC at everything lately. Movies, clearly, television with all the new Disney Plus shows are coming out this year, and even video games with the Spider-Man games that have been coming out. So DC's really got to get its shit together with the movies, the video games, I guess, but also the television shows, which have lost all respect from the general public and are not really considered good. So I'm hoping that this new DC universe that starts with Superman and Lois will get some respect back to the DC television name, and hopefully maybe we can go back to saying that DC is better at TV, because right now they just aren't. So anyway, that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, what this new universe should be called, and what other shows would you like to see in it, other than Superman and Lois and Wonder Girl. So if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.